Hi, welcome to Empty Nest Travel Hacker. Today I'm going to tell you about a magical place that's green and beautiful and leprechauns run around. Well, maybe not real leprechauns, but it is magical and it should be on your bucket list. I didn't even know it existed, but I would have put it on my bucket list if I had known. But now I've been there and it's awesome, so stay tuned. Hi, so today I want to tell you about a beautiful place in Croatia at the Krka National Park. Krka is a little area, it's along the river in Dalmatia, in the middle of, I'm not going to say this correctly, Šibenik, Knin County. It's the southernmost province in Croatia, and it's well worth a visit. So what we did is we stayed in Split, which is also another destination worthy of your travel list, and I'll tell you about that in another video. But we stayed in Split and we decided to take a day trip. So you can go on to npkrka.hr. That's the National Park's website where you can learn all about things to do and how to get there. But what we did is we looked on TripAdvisor and some other websites to kind of get an idea of what are real people doing. And we saw so many reviews where people were frustrated because of the long lines and the confusing directions. And so we just decided to book a tour. And I'm so glad we did, because we didn't even have to think of anything. We just booked the tour for $33 for a half day going out of Split. And the bus just picked us up really close to our hotel where we were staying at an Airbnb, but they picked us up at a center place, which was actually at Diocletian's Palace, which was really close to where we were staying. But anyway, we just popped on the bus and we just had a relaxing, about a 1 hour trip, 1.5 hour trip on the bus. And then when we arrived, we got to the destination. Krka National Park is absolutely beautiful. You can take a half-day trip or a full-day trip, or even stay at a city nearby and really spend a couple of days there. There's so much to do. We only went to the very most popular tourist area of the national park, but there's so much more that you can see and do. So you want to check it out on their website. So what we did is we went on a private tour bus. There were about maybe 40 people on the bus. It was completely full, which was totally fine. And it cost us about $33 American US dollars. You can also rent a smaller group bus for double that, $65. Or you could even drive in your own car if you're already renting a bus to get around Croatia. So it's about an 1.5 hour bus drive from Split, where we were staying, and we booked the tour because we saw so many people complaining online after having been there and trying to navigate all of this to get there. They mentioned the long lines and the confusion, so we just decided to not worry about getting an international driver's license and not worrying about getting lost and driving and all of that. We just got onto a bus tour, and I'm so glad we did. So the bus took us from Split to the city, which is called Skraden, and I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, Skraden. And if you're taking the public bus, that's the bus stop that you want to get off on. Look at Get By Bus, that's a website, or flickbus.com, and they'll tell you the schedule on where to go from your city, wherever you're staying in Croatia, to get to this destination. When you get to the destination, you're actually going to be in a little area that has just a tiny street with some little street vendors, and then a building that kind of looks like a glass building. That's where you're going to buy your tickets. We didn't have to worry about that because that's part of what the tour service already took care of. So we went into the glass building to use their restroom, and we hung out and we checked out some of the snacks that the vendors were having, and it was very relaxing, as opposed to some of the tourists that were doing it all by themselves, and they were scrambling and standing in long lines trying to get tickets. And what it is you're trying to get tickets for is a ferry or a boat ride to actually get to these falls in this part of the Krka National Park. So it was very relaxed. We got on the little ferry, and one of the top features of this little ferry station is that there are swans. but they're pretty aggressive. So if you want to feed them, you need to be very careful because they'll just grab your hand and bite your hand off. They didn't bite off my hands, but I'm just saying they got pretty aggressive when I offered them some snacks. Anyway, so you're going to be on this little ferry or a boat, and it seems to me, I can't remember now, but I think it took about 20 to 30 minutes. And if you get seasick, this is not a seasick situation. I tend to get seasick, but this was just a gentle little river cruise kind of a thing. And so you're not going to get dizzy. It's just beautiful scenery, lots of greenery, and it's just very gentle. On the ferry, there's a little restroom, very little being the key word there. And the ferry generally takes off every 30 minutes. So you'll get there just very quickly. I say such weird things sometimes. So the ferry takes about 20 to 30 minutes to actually get to where these big falls are. Now at Krka National Park, there are actually a series of 7 waterfalls, but the big one is called Stradinsky Buck. And that's the big one that you see pictures of, and maybe you've seen videos of it, where you see people going swimming with these gorgeous waterfalls, and it's so beautiful, and it is, but swimming is a little bit more tricky than maybe what the videos make it look like. The waterfalls are gorgeous, but if you go in the summertime like I did, I was there in June, it's packed full of people. So oftentimes you'll see pictures of just the falls of one person or a model or something. That kind of a shot is really hard to get during high season because it's so crowded. Actually getting into the water is also really tricky. It's very slippery and there's lots of rocks. At that main entrance area, there's a map on a billboard kind of a thing that shows you where to go. There's some restrooms, and then there are a few little kiosks that sell snack food, but there are no places to change, no dressing rooms really to speak of other than that restroom. So you see lots of people kind of putting towels around them and just sort of taking their shorts off when they've got their bathing suit on underneath. So there's not a whole lot of privacy. And like I said, you've got to navigate these rocks pretty carefully, and also you're navigating people. And what's odd is that in one area it could be very, very deep, and then you walk a few feet and then shallow again. So really be careful. There's no handicap access. It's kind of a dangerous, slippery situation, so you just want to be really, really careful. But going into the water, it's really fun. It's very refreshing. The other thing too is you don't get like underneath the waterfalls. Everybody has a fantasy of having the waterfalls just, pouring onto their hair or something. You can't get that close because there's an undertow. So they actually have it roped off so that you're safe. And I didn't see any lifeguards, but there are enough other people that'll say, hey, get away from the ropes or whatever. On the other side, it's very gentle waters. There's no swimming on the other side. When I say the other side, I mean there's a bridge, and that's where everybody lines up, tons of people, and they're all trying to get those pictures. So then on the other side of the bridge, it's just a gentle little river, and then you can actually see a water mill going. So that's kind of cool. Once you get into the park, you've swam, you've taken all the pictures you can, then there's I think it was about a kilometer walk or up and around the falls where you'll see other falls. You'll also see some little touristy huts. I call them history huts, where you can learn about what it was like to live in Croatia back in the day, like the 1700s and the 1800s. You'll see like a blacksmith shop, a silversmith shop kind of a thing. There's some little touristy stores where you can buy things, and then there's another water mill. There's also a restaurant where you can just order individual items, and they even have a little buffet. Now, I brought snacks, and you definitely want to bring water, but so I wasn't thinking I was going to eat anything, but some friends that we went with, they were starving, so they actually sat down and ordered a meal, and then of course, then I started salivating and getting hungry. So they had Wiener Schnitzel, and I'm trying to remember what else we ate there. And it was perfectly fine, and it filled the tummy and made for a delightful time. There are also bathrooms up above as you're walking up through the pathway. So it's just a gentle little hike. Most of the time you're on little wooden platforms, kind of like a deck that you're walking around, and most of the time it's pretty gentle. There are a few times where there are some stairs that go up. So if you're in a wheelchair, I'm trying to I do remember one specific place where there was a ramp, but the actual walking paths are wide enough for wheelchairs, so that's good. I can think of 2 bathrooms, one down at the main area and then one up about halfway. So you want to time all of that carefully. As we were researching whether or not we wanted to go to Krka, the other option was to go to another place called Plitvice. And I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly either, but I'll write it down on the screen so you can see. Now we had to really decide as a group, there were 6 of us in the group, which one that we wanted to go to. We were staying in Split, so our choice was to go to Krka, which was about an hour and a half, 2-hour venture outside of the city, which is reasonable for a little day excursion, or to take a 4.5 hour bus ride all the way to Plitvice. Now my brother and his wife had actually gone last year, and so they were telling us about that place. My sister-in-law absolutely loved it. And if you see pictures of it, it's gorgeous. Instead of just a few falls, there are tons of falls, and it's just so gorgeous. Your eyeballs will be saturated with gorgeousness. It's just so beautiful. My brother, who's really athletic, had a different opinion, and I was kind of surprised. He said, well, I feel like I drove a really long way to have a nice hike. And so I was like, it does look beautiful. If you have the time and the money, because it costs a little bit more in time and money to get out there, then maybe next time I'll go to Plitvice just because it looks so gorgeous. But I was really happy with Krka. At first I thought Krka only had that one swimming area, but it does have the little hike. It's a small hike, about 1 kilometer or so up and around, but it also had those little history huts, which I thought was kind of fun too. There's a water wheel, and it's actually a working water wheel, so that was kind of fun. And they have wheat kernels, and you watch the wheat kernels actually get ground up into wheat. So it's actually a real old but real working water mill. So that was kind of fun. At the park itself at Krka, they have 2,200 different bird species. So if you are a bird watcher, you'll really like that. And just as you're walking down through the river, you'll see quite a few different fish species. One that surprised me was like a little brown trout. I don't know why that surprised me, but then there were beautiful insects, dragonflies, and all kinds of other things like that. Bring sunscreen for sure, because you'll be out in the sun. And you might also want to bring insect repellent. There are bugs. We sprayed ourselves and not one of us got bit. So maybe they weren't strong, or maybe our bug spray was strong. Either way, it was a really delightful time. We just relaxed and enjoyed it. And then at the end of our time, our tour guide told us to meet back up at the parking lot to catch the bus. My only complaint about this bus tour was there wasn't really any education. I like bus tours when you can watch a movie about your destination, or the tour guide teaches you something about the destination, and there really wasn't anything like that. I happened to sit on the front row right next to the tour guide, so we just chit-chatted, but she didn't get on the microphone and really teach. So if you really like that, then I would recommend that you get on to Rick Steves and get some of his downloads about Croatia and listen to those while you're driving to Krka. It's a really great place, and it's just beautiful. So have a wonderful time. Oh, and if you've been to Krka, then please comment below and tell us what you thought of it. And if you've been to Plitvice, tell me what you thought of that and how you would compare the two. Like my channel and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for supporting. And now go out there and explore the world.